Allie here. Today we're going to be discussing my journey from C's and D's to A's and B's. I'm going to start this video with full disclosure. If you asked me in 2018 if I thought A's in medical school were possible, I would probably laugh in your face. I went in hopeful. I saw the nice picture of the Honor Society and I thought, oh, I would love to be a part of that. But then boom, chick, pow, in comes reality. My first test scores did not say Honor Society. So my goal was then only to pass. And that will be key number one. Never make passing the goal. Now this could just be me, but I believe that this falls under that corny but very true saying, shoot for the stars and land on the moon. I feel if you study for a C, you prep for a C, and you expect a C, there is still that likelihood that you might fall under and get a D. But if you study for an A, prep for an A, do everything to get that A, the worst case scenario is you might fall on a B. To be succinct, I'm just going to do a broad overview of my first semester in 2018 and my first semester in 2020, and I'm going to compare and contrast them. 2018, Allie did not have everything wrong. There were some good things that I did that I carried over into 2020, but obviously 2020 Allie did it better. There is a class, and depending on which medical school you attended, it has a million different names, but it all comes down to the same thing. Mine was known as patient-doctor's relations, and it's just trying to test, will you be a good doctor? Will you know how to interview the patient and figure out the bottom of their problems? And I'm not going to say that 2018 Allie didn't do good, because I did end up getting a B in that course. My issue there was with time management, because I was so busy trying to put all my time and energy into anatomy and histo that I didn't really have time to study for my electives exam. But 2020 Allie had 2 electives, so that was me finally figuring out how to divvy up my time. So, for starters, I was studying passively, going through slides, not doing much with the slides information. I did try to take notes, but my notes were pretty bad in the sense that they weren't organized. I did not have a laptop pen, so I could not write on the slides. When I used pen and paper, it didn't really coordinate with anything. So 2020, I changed all that. I got a laptop pen, and I also started to reorganize the notes. So if I didn't like the format, if I didn't like the flow, I could categorize it better. For instance, I'll show you my histo notes. As you can see, they're very color-coded. My brain loves color. I'm gonna make sure it gets color. I went through it multiple times. As you can see, there's highlights here to help me notice or focus on certain things. And then if there was the instance where I didn't get something, I would draw it so that I could get a clearer picture. As you can see, my little inner ear diagram. All right, now I'm gonna move on into my anatomy. So anatomy, there is a lot to memorize. It's better to visualize. I have all my lymph nodes drainage notes here for the genital region. And what I did was I color coded and I redrew it so that my brain can make the connection. It's not optimizing my class time. Granted, they did cut off the Wi-Fi during class in 2018, and it was hard with all the loudspeakers in order to focus on other things. But in 2020, I did engage more with the professors. If they asked questions, I raised my hand. If I had questions, I raised my hand. And if they pointed out something or highlighted something, now with my laptop pen, I would circle it on my notes and stars, and I would even write on it certain things. So, some people swear by Anki, and this is a major key here. Do not rely your learning habits on other people's. So while everyone else was doing Anki, I thought I had to do Anki too. I'm not a flashcard person. I can't just memorize information. I have to conceptualize it. And if it's not something you need to conceptualize, I need to visualize it. And so I learned that after a lot of trial and error. 2018, there was a whisper about practice questions. It wasn't mainstream, not everyone knew to do them. In 2020, after I learned about practice questions at my previous school, I used practice questions in 2020. I did them from the textbooks, I did them from the teacher's formatives, I did whatever I could because practice questions were so helpful to me in so many different ways. Like for one, I knew what was high yield information. In med school, you have an ample amount of information and you don't always know what exactly to study. You don't always have a professor that helps highlight that. So practice questions help you to focus on key information. They help you to learn testing styles. Like if a teacher asks a tertiary question, you'll know how to answer that. And then also, I think that was it. I don't think I have a third reason. So let's talk about the positive things that I learned in 2018. One of those being I had a mentor, and he actually invented what I called the Anatomy Bible. It looked like a simple folder like this, and it said something like anatomy here. And then inside he had these pages organized where he would categorize the muscles based off of their groups, and he color coded them. And what he did was he would have the muscle category, origin, insertion, innervation, action, and then let's say there's something special like here. He will put that there like something that would be high yield practice question information. And so I brought that to 2020. And I was telling you guys how I used to try to think about what my teacher might ask. And so I did kind of have to bring that over into 2020 because I was spoiled for a little while with one of my histology professors actually giving us like a question checklist. So he had the key questions, the key notes, and then he had the slides. And after they switched out the professors, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I don't have my key questions anymore. I don't know what to focus on. And then I was like, wait a second. In 2018, didn't I used to write my own questions? And so I ended up redoing that. Obviously, I love my histo ear. So that's what I ended up redoing again. Lastly, I would say that I began using planners to help organize. Sometimes things can feel very overwhelming in medical school. You feel like you have 1,000,001 things to do. You don't know where to start. You feel like you might lose your mind. Get a planner, because what you can do is you can make a to-do checklist. And I used to feel so good when I would check those things off, review anatomy notes, do X amount of practice questions, do this in the last one, but this is actually the last thing. I love mnemonics. I have grasped onto these and I will not let go. I like other people's mnemonics, but I feel like my mnemonics are even greater because people actually even steal my mnemonics. They're like, oh my gosh, that's good, I'm gonna take that. But the key one I learned from one of my TA sessions was Californians like girls in string bikinis, and this is actually all the layers of the epidermis so that you can remember the order. That's another key thing. But I've done my part. I did the general broad overview of the differences between how I studied for my first semester in 2018 and my first semester in 2020. Now you guys have to do your part. You have to like, you have to subscribe, you have to connect with me, because next video is going to be about how I studied for each individual basic science course. And I will list like the textbooks and the outside resources I used as well.